Do we have any intel besides Jordan about who is not going to be here tonight?
I believe that's the only one I'm aware of, Marty.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the Missoula City Council meeting of May 24th, 2021 to order. This is a Zoom webinar, and there are a number of instructions on our website. And you've seen a slide indicating how you can communicate with us if you want to participate in the meeting. That slide is up now. If you're calling on the phone this evening, I'll recognize you by the last 4 digits of your phone number, and you can mute and unmute using *6 and raise your hand with *9. And with that, it appears that all council members are present this evening except for Mr. Hess. We have minutes of the meeting of May 17th. Without objection, they'll be approved. And seeing none, we'll move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Raybon.
Thanks, Mayor Ingen. So next week is a Memorial Day and the City Council will not be meeting. So we're setting up committee meetings for the following 2 weeks. These meetings are also being held via Zoom webinar, all the committees. And to access those, you just go to the city's website. Google is probably your friend there, or your favorite search engine. Google the City of Missoula or search the City of Missoula and get on our webpage. There's a meetings button right there in the middle. Click that and it'll take you to Agenda Central for all of our public meetings. The instructions for joining any of these webinars are at the top of each respective agenda. And here we go. This is the schedule. So this week on the 26th of May, Committee of the Whole will meet from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Land Use and Planning Committee will follow from 10:15 to 11:45. And then on June 2nd, the Administration and Finance Committee will meet from 9 o'clock to 9:45.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Are there any changes to the committee schedule this evening? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening. And we ask that you try to keep those comments to about 3 minutes. General public comment this evening. I have a Josh.
Hi, Mayor, Council. My name is Josh Decker. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I would like to this evening thank you for your what appears to be quick and decisive action on acquiring properties formerly or under offer by Western Montana Mental Health Center. And I would encourage the city to move through this process with complete transparency so that folks can understand what's going on and folks can be informed of the process as it moves forward. I'd also encourage the city to move to acquire the 3rd Street property in addition to the Broadway property. And I know details are emerging all the time on this. I know folks have been working very hard on this, and I appreciate that work. I'm nervous that as you know, I see this as a real wake-up call for permanent affordability in housing that's constructed with public funds. Are we in a situation where with Western Montana Mental Health Center as the sunset date on the affordability mandate on properties that are not currently for sale comes up, is the city going to be held hostage to purchase those properties as well? So I would like to, implore the city to have permanently affordable housing available with no sunset date, and work towards that in future projects so that we as constituents aren't necessarily responsible for budget holes that Western Montana Mental Health Center potentially could have avoided. What I want you to hear first and foremost is thank you for decisive action on acquiring the property. And I appreciate council's work to that end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Seeing no additional hands raised in the attendees, we will move on to our consent agenda. Those items were approved unanimously in council standing committees, and we saved a little time by considering these items all at once. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud, so those in the audience and watching on MCAT will know what we're considering, and we'll take comment on these items before we vote. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. Tonight's consent agenda has 4 items. The first is to approve the city's accounts payable, which we refer to as claims, in the amount of $465,278.97 for checks that are dated tomorrow, May 25th, 2021. Number 2, even though a quorum wasn't present, the committee recommends that City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign a professional services agreement with DJ&A, an engineering firm, for the George Elmer Drive Cattle Drive Roundabout project at a cost not to exceed $38,814. Number 3 is to approve the Pleasant View Homes number 5 subdivision phase 6 final plat, and the last one is to approve the Pleasant View Homes number 5 subdivision phase 7 final plat.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, I see no hands up among attendees. We'll have a roll call vote.
On the consent agenda, Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
and West.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 11 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. And the consent agenda is approved. We have no comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, or the community forum this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I am currently unable to open the proclamation this evening, which is for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. That proclamation is posted on our website, and it's, pardon me, a proclamation that I read every year that acknowledges the number of fatalities in our communities around the country associated with firearms. As this council is very aware, we have concern about illegal guns and their use. And we don't need to do much other than read the headlines daily to recognize that we have a problem in this country. And this proclamation acknowledges that and asks residents to think about that and act appropriately. My apologies for the technical error. We'll move on to the public hearing portion of our, I'm sorry, Ms. Rayburn.
We have a hand up. Jeanette Fadness wanted to speak to the proclamation this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good. My apologies. Hi, Danette.
Hello, thank you. Sorry you weren't able to read the proclamation, but I appreciate you making a proclamation for June 4th, the National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and letting me speak for just a moment. I am Danette Fadness, Missoula resident, mother, grandmother, child injury and suicide prevention educator, and a Be Smart Montana lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Together with hundreds of thousands of Americans, we turn America orange each year for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. But the work doesn't end there. Every town and our partner organizations continue to do life-saving work so that we can get closer to realizing a future free from gun violence. We wear orange to be seen and to demand to be heard. As the proclamation stated, which we didn't read, but I'll tell you some of the things. Every day, 100 Americans are killed with guns and hundreds more are injured. Firearms are the second leading cause of death for American children and teens. Access to a gun increases the risk of death by suicide by 3 times that. So responsible storage is vital in the fight against gun violence, which is where the Be Smart program comes into play. So being smart is securing your firearms unloaded, locked, out of reach and sight of youth and teens, modeling good behavior around guns, like treating them as if they're all loaded, even if they are not, asking before you send your little ones over to someone else's house if they have a firearm, and if so, if it is responsibly stored. But I've been doing this work for many years now, and you have to ask how it's stored, because I've talked to plenty of people that tell me a loaded pistol in the top of the closet is a secured firearm. R in SMART is recognizing that an unsecured gun is a risk for youth suicide. And T is telling everyone what you've learned today. So far this year in the US, 93 kids have gained access to a firearm and shot themselves or others. The number of unintentional shootings went up 38% in 2020, resulting in at least 369 unintentional shootings by children. In my work to end gun violence, I talk with families about responsible gun storage, securing your guns in your home, your vehicle, your garage, unloaded, locked, and out of reach in sight of kids and teens. We know that in as little as 5 minutes from thought to follow through with access to fatal means, we are losing our youth to suicide. In 2018, here in Missoula County, 75% of our suicides were completed by firearm. So responsible storage is so important. Hadia Pendleton is, her friends wore orange in her honor. So that's where National Gun Violence Awareness came from. This was a young lady who was killed in Chicago by gun violence. So each year, landmarks across the country will turn orange. June 4th, so this year on June 4th, Friday, June 4th, the Empire State Building in New York, all the way to the Court Tower in San Francisco, and many in between. Many Missoula businesses will be turning orange. So you'll see that on Higgins Street, they'll have orange in their windows, and the carousel will again be turning orange. We are hosting a statewide virtual event honoring survivors and those lost to gun violence on Saturday, June 5th at 10 a.m. You can text orange to 64433 and come join us for that. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fadness. We appreciate your filling in the blanks that I created this evening. Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. I just wanted to also say thanks to Danette for coming and speaking tonight, and to the Moms Demand Action group in Missoula and across the country who have been working to try and protect our children and our friends and families from gun violence and accidental gun injuries and deaths. It's really important that we continue this work. And Danette, I know you give so much of your time, and I just want to personally thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Moving on to the public hearing portion of our agenda, state law and our own council rules set guideline for considering items and hearing from the public in a formal way on a variety of issues and following a staff report on each. Pardon me. Council and I will invite comment. Council will defer its decision and will hold a public hearing open for a week following the staff report this evening, so that folks have an opportunity to reach out via a variety of means. And council will take up these items for final consideration at their next regular meeting, which will be 2 weeks from this evening, unless an item is returned to committee or further complicated by a schedule. Our first public hearing this evening is on a resolution for a variety of budget amendments. And Ms. Griffin has our staff report this evening.
Thank you. So today I am bringing third quarter budget amendments to City Council. And as the mayor mentioned, this is the first of 2 public hearings to review these budget amendments before they are passed. And I am going to try to share my screen right now and walk through an exhibit that we have listing out each of these budget amendments. Hope this is large enough that folks who are watching my screen on screen can see. So in this first section of budget amendments, we have 5 items that are very traditional budget amendments. These are items that have been before City Council in a variety of meetings and fashions, but for one reason or another, we didn't actually have revenue or expenditures added to their total appropriations. That's the total amount a department budget can spend. So some of this is a bit of housekeeping. Park District transfer in revenue. That's revenue that's in the Park District being transferred over to the Aquatics Fund. There is the Caris Park project phase 1. This has been budgeted and assessed within the Park District, and this is moving some funds over to a construction fund where the folks can manage that independently. Then we have a utilities engineer and green waste inspector, and we want to increase the expenses for these 2, but the revenues are coming from their current operating revenues. They think that they can absorb that. And then we have the recompute building remodel to aid in housing additional engineering and public works, mobility, and infrastructure staff. Underneath this section, we have what are called FTE changes to be added to the FY22 baseline budget. FTE stands for full-time equivalent. So these are positions that are being added to the budget. They, each of one of these departments feels that they currently actually have enough budget authority that they don't need additional budget authority to hire these folks. But in hiring them, they would be added to the FY22 baseline budget that we will be bringing to City Council later in this summer. So we wanted to have this item on budget amendments. Then we have what is called budget carry forwards. This is some additional accounting housekeeping. A lot of these are projects that have already been approved. They've been approved in the prior year budget. They have contracts that have been approved, but things just have not been completed. So we're carrying them forward to this fiscal year. There are 5 of those. And past that, we have a slew of budget transfers. These are items that are not increasing or decreasing the overall revenues or expenses for the city, but we're doing some accounting cleanup, and we bring these forward as an informational item. So in case somebody goes back and looks at the original budget and then the final budget and they see a difference, it's usually accounting for some of these budget transfers and making sure that the budgets are in the appropriate funds and appropriate departments. And I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Pardon me. Thank you, Ms. Griffin. With that, I will open the public hearing on these proposed budget amendments. And again, that public hearing will remain open for a week. Seeing no hands up among attendees. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Decker?
As we were clicking through that last graphic, it seemed like there was another page of line items. Could we take a look at that again, potentially? That one was only on screen for 1 second, or? Okay, thank you. I appreciate
So folks know that exhibit is attached to the agenda. So folks want to go up and go through each one of those pages individually outside of the meeting. That's where it can be found.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. All right, questions or comments from council members this evening? All right, seeing none, that item will be up for final consideration 2 weeks from this evening. Our second public hearing is on a subdivision exemption request for 205 Teddy Turn. It's a family transfer, and this item has our staff report this evening.
Thank you very much. Can you all see the screen and hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Good evening then. My name is Alex Idam. I'm an associate planner with the Permits and Land Use Division of Development Services. And I'm here this evening to review an entitlement request for a family transfer subdivision exemption at 205 Teddy Turn. This request was submitted by Daniel Foltz with IMAG Corps on behalf of the property owner, Kendall Cleves, who would like to transfer roughly 3.8 acres of his land to his daughter. So the subject location identified by the star is north of I-90 and the downtown center up in the upper Rattlesnake area. Specifically, the parcel itself here, 205 Teddy Turn, is between Duncan Drive and Brahms Bay. It's about 27.01 acres. And so kind of a breakdown of what we're specifically looking at. The subdivision exemption for family transfer falls under the first one you see is the Montana state law, and that's for subdivisions made outside a platted subdivision or divisions for the purpose of single gift or sale in each county to each member of the landowner's immediate family. So that's where in state law this request falls under. And then specifically more why we're here this evening is per the Missoula City subdivision regulations, the use of family transfer in combination with other exemptions by the same claimant, regardless of when the other exemption was taken, requires a public hearing so the city council may determine if the applicant is entitled to the exemption. And I will go further into kind of what this looks like shortly. So for the growth policy, properties are located in the residential rural land use designation, which is a land use designation that recognizes single dwelling units on parcels over 2 acres and then some other agricultural uses as well. It is intended to function as a reserve of land less suited for denser development due to distance from community services and its high valued resource lands. And then you'll see there's some green areas. There's a lot of open and resource parks and open lands area in this area, which the community profile section of the city growth policy encourages conservation lands to promote a healthy lifestyle by providing open spaces for community benefits and preserving important wildlife, fish, and bird habitat. And then the other land use designation is residential low density, kind of off to the side on the east side of the property. So the The subject property, 205 Teddy Turn, is unzoned, and you can see the kind of areas immediately to the northeast and west are all in color. That's identifying the unzoned areas. Similar to the growth policy, to the south and west of the property is OP1 open space zoning district and OP2. And then again, there's just a little bit of R20 low density residential surrounding it on the corner. Kind of want to touch on unzoned lands here real quick, just to give some context to that. In terms of permitting for the planning office, a zoning compliance permit can be submitted and permitted for any kind of primary building, structure, or use, and same with accessory, as long as 2 of 5 criteria are met. And so I've listed the 2 that are being met here today. The first is the proposed development is consistent with the land use recommendations of the adopted growth policy. So both the tracts being proposed here comply with the growth policy land use designation of residential rural from 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. And the second one is the proposed development is consistent with the growth policy objectives and goals. The conservation easement on tract 4A will be retained and is consistent with goals, objectives, and policies to retain open space and wildlife habitat. So there's a lot of parcel history for this. So I kind of just went back to 2015 to give a slow but yet quick kind of progression of why we are here today in front of City Council. So in 2015, there was a boundary line relocation for the property, and that's how it became Tract 1A, and that's the outlined areas in red. And you can see kind of on the southeastern side is a hashed area. It's a little bit darker. It's a conservation easement. And so the area then bubbled in blue is specifically where that boundary line relocation was occurring. And how we got to this like large piece of land. And the important thing that happened is in 2019, there was a court-ordered split. So specifically, we have the large parcel again, it became Tract 4, and that's where the 27.09 acres came from. And then Tract 5 was created over here, outlined in blue. And so that was the first exemption used by the Cleves family in 2019 through the court-ordered split that was using the exemption at that time. And as well, the conservation easement, just to point out, was not affected or modified at all during that time. So here's the request we have in front of us today. This is the portion, the 3.8 acres of land that wants to be transferred to Mr. Cleves' daughter. And again, the conservation easement down here is still going to be maintained in that same space. So kind of in summary to just, again, the family transfer through subdivision exemption complies with the state law, but due to the previous exemption from the court-ordered split that was used by Mr. Cleves, the entitlement must be granted by City Council per the subdivision regulations. City staff sent out some agency memo to collect feedback from other agencies, and we heard back from the Missoula City County Health Department with James Irvin, and he said the sanitation review is required or an applicable exemption cited per state law must be there prior to filing the amended plat. And we also received comments from the Five Valleys Land Trust. They are the holder of that conservation easement, and they confirmed that the Tract 4B to be transferred to the daughter is outside the conservation easement boundary and therefore not subject to the conservation easement terms. Including specifically that there is a prohibition on subdivision that is called out in a certain section of the conservation easement, but again, as proposed, it is not going to be affecting that easement at all. So condition of approval, based on the comment we got from the Missoula City County Health Department, we added in a condition of approval that the applicant shall obtain sanitation approval from Missoula City County Health Department for proposed Tract 4A and 4B prior to filing the amended plat. And this evening, there is no motion being taken at this time, but staff recommends the approval of the entitlement request for family transfer subdivision exemption in accordance with state law and the city subdivision regulations based on materials submitted in the application and the condition of approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ida. With that, I will open the public hearing. Anyone interested in commenting on this family transfer proposal? Seeing none, any questions from council members? Seeing none, all right, this public hearing will remain open until the 7th of June. Our third public hearing this evening is on another subdivision exemption request. this at the Mill Site subdivision, and our staff report comes this evening from Ms. Glocka.
Good evening. Just going to make this full screen. All right, there we go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Gluckin, and I am an associate planner in the Development Services Division. Tonight, I will be presenting a subdivision exemption request for a boundary line relocation in Block 6 of the Mill Site subdivision. The subdivision exemption request includes the boundary line relocation of the common boundaries between 13 lots. Montana state law authorizes the division, redesign, or rearrangement of 6 or more lots if reviewed and approved by the governing body, which in this case is City Council, before an amended plat can be filed. So that is why we are hearing this project this evening. Block 6 is located on Wyoming Street between California Street and Orange Street and is south of the river and Silver Park. It is in the Old Sawmill District development and located in the Riverfront neighborhood and City Council Ward 3. The applicable regional plan is the Missoula 2035 growth policy, which designates the property as community mixed use. Areas with this land use designation are characterized by uses including retail, education, financial institutions, professional and personal services, offices, and general service activities. The relatable Title 20 zoning districts are C1 for neighborhood commercial, C2 for community commercial, and M1R2 limited industrial residential. And the zoning of Block 6, it is within the Mill Site Special Zoning District and is designated in Subdistrict E, which is a subdistrict intended for residential uses within that Mill Site zoning district. So to zoom out and to provide some context, the property is located in the Phase 1 Wyoming North portion of the Mill Site subdivision, for which the final plat was filed in 2015. And this was following a phasing plan amendment that was approved in 2014. So the plat that we're looking at right now is the final plat for Phase 1. Block 6 is situated between a common area greenscape to the east, which is designated as CAGS on this plat, and Old Mill Road to the west, both of which have not yet been constructed. Block 6 currently contains 13 lots that range from around 2,300 to 5,300 square feet in area. Lots 6 through 9 on the west side have frontage on Old Mill Road. Lots 9 through 12 have frontage on Wyoming Street, and lots 12 through 18 front onto the common area greenscape to the east. A private access and utility easement currently exists in the center of the block that provides the northern lots access to Wyoming Street and kind of acts as a turnaround. An easement vacation process is currently underway for 2 existing utility easements along the Wyoming Street frontage, and that process was in motion right now and will be happening following this process. So following the boundary line relocations, the 13 lots will remain and will range from around 2,000 to 11,000 square feet in area. Lots 6A through 8A will front onto Old Mill Road. Lots 8A through 12A and portions of lot 18A will front on Wyoming Street, and lots 12A through 16A will front onto the common area greenscape. There is no minimum parcel area in the Mill Site Special District. However, Subdistrict E requires a minimum parcel width of 32 feet for lots that will contain single dwelling residential uses. And any new development on these proposed lots will be required to meet all applicable zoning and other municipal regulations at the time of building permit. These include setbacks, maximum building height, parking requirements, and so on. The largest lot, which is 18A, will act as a public service corridor for the use and benefit as a private access and private utility easement, and will accommodate utility and service activities, including garbage truck access and things like that. As part of this process, staff recommends 7 conditions of approval on the subdivision exemption request. They're based on staff review and agency comments that were received. The first 2 conditions require the inclusion of all utility and access easements on the amended plat when it's filed, and require that the easement vacation that is currently underway be complete and reflected appropriately on the amended plat. The third condition is a general requirement that the unmet conditions of approval for the mill site subdivision phase 1 Wyoming North remain in effect following this boundary line relocation. And the remaining recommended conditions as part of this subdivision exemption relate to the subdivision conditions of approval that are specific to the development of Block 6. And I'll explain these in the following slides. Conditions number 4 and 5 that are recommended by staff discuss improvements to the common area greenscape, including a boulevard sidewalk adjacent to proposed lots 12A through 16A, and landscaping between Block 6 and the Moose Creek Trail right-of-way to the east. The 6th recommended condition requires the construction of the portion of Old Mill Road that's designated in the phase 1 Wyoming North plat of the mill site subdivision, including improvements like sidewalks and boulevard landscaping. And finally, the proposed boundary line relocation that we're seeing today will remove 1 existing boulevard tree on Wyoming Street. So the final condition of approval requires the submittal and approval of a revised boulevard tree planting plan for Wyoming Street, Old Mill Road, and the common area greenscape to account for changes to boulevard landscaping. And I will note here that staff is currently communicating with the applicants regarding the timing of installation for some of these recommended improvements. And I will present any changes to the condition language if it is modified at LEP this week. To conclude, staff recommends the approval of the subdivision exemption request for the boundary line relocation presented, subject to the 7 conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glucken. With that, I will open the public hearing. Anyone interested in commenting on this proposed boundary line relocation? Seeing none, the public hearing will remain open.
And Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Ryan with WGM Group. We do have a presentation if now is appropriate to for the developer.
Mr. Salisbury, please.
Let me see if I can get my technology shared. Hopefully you are seeing a full screen of the PowerPoint presentation. Good evening, everyone. With me on this call tonight is Jamie Urbacher, and who's with a land planner with WGM Group, and Don MacArthur, who's with MMW Architects, and is doing the design of the homes proposed for Block 6. Wanted to just share with folks that aren't familiar with the mill site, just the overall plan here. The phase 1 Wyoming North plat, as Emily mentioned, was recorded in 2015, and the project is broke out into phases and sub-phases that allow flexibility for us. Like this phase 2 Montana is a sub-phase, and phase 2 Welcome Creek Court. The area we're talking about tonight is right here, but I later in some other slides wanted to just show folks what's been going on at the mill site. We've all been locked up in our homes and not sure if you have had a chance to drive down Wyoming recently. Wyoming Street. Why the changes and why the proposed boundary line adjustment has a lot to do with market demand, really. This subdivision went through preliminary plat approval in the mid-2000s, and at that time, hard to anticipate what current market demands would be. There was a vision for a 4-story condo building fronting the CAGS, or common area green space. The parking structure below that condominium didn't really work out very well with the dimensions available on the lots. And in addition to that, the developer is hearing a large demand for single family homes, duplexes or townhomes. It's a single family home with a shared wall. And when the preliminary plat was contemplated, we didn't know exactly what the home designs would be. So accepting the lots fronting the common area green space, the original lots were not specifically designed for a product type. And we, over the years, are honing in on the product type that is both in demand and works for finding the sweet spot, honestly, of not having too big of a lot where your home is too expensive and out of reach for folks, or a lot that's too small where it doesn't sell because it doesn't have an acceptable floor plan. So the current desire for compact duplex and single family configurations with alley served garages is what the current market demand that they're trying to meet with this proposal in front of you tonight. We also want to improve the urban design of the neighborhood and the quality of resident experience. In the previous projects on Poly Square, we had a lot of feedback that it was hard to sell the ground level units fronting Wyoming Street. The pedestrian traffic felt very close to their front porches in addition to the traffic on Wyoming Street. So this redesign proposal in front of you tonight allows us to do a 20-foot setback along Wyoming to create a more desirable relationship between the busy street and the houses. And getting the appropriate setbacks from the common area green space was also contemplated, and increasing the spacing of the public-private access and utility easements, AKA alleys, along Wyoming for an improved pedestrian experience. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. Emily has shown you these are contemplated building footprints. Here's an example right here of the duplex unit, shared common wall, but single family living on either side of the shared wall. And there's a mix. There's some standalone single family units scattered through the project. And a turning exhibit demonstrating that emergency services, this is a model of a City of Missoula fire truck navigating the proposed alley configuration. And an idea of what the units are modeled to look like. Actually, this is really accurate as to what is proposed here. MMW Architects has been working closely with a builder and a developer to create these SketchUps and anticipating building permit submittal as soon as we could get the amended plat filed. This is Old Mill Road over here. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got a couple screens going on here. Old Mill Road is here, and this is Wyoming Street. And then another view, this is the sidewalk adjacent to the common area green space. And again, this is Wyoming Street and the proposed units on the corner of the common area green space in Wyoming. And this is the common area green space today, and some of the conditions that Emily had mentioned. We do have some suggested changes to those that we'll go over with you at LUP. But this is an existing sidewalk, pedestrian crossing, and this is the west edge of the common area green space. I'm just showing with the Block 9 or the Tech Campus building that's under construction. These projects were taken mid last week. We've got construction fencing, staging materials, construction job trailers, and the construction staging area is one of the primary reasons we've asked to defer the improvements on the common area green space. We have an improvements guarantee posted for all improvements that have not been done. And again, another shot of the construction staging that's out there, construction staging materials. This right here is a blue, it's a bent green T-post. But this is a water main that was stubbed out with the construction of Wyoming that will extend to the north with the Block 6 improvements. So deferring the CAGS irrigation and seeding of the grass is beneficial until we get the infrastructure extended out from under the CAGS. And this is an idea of what is under construction now, Old Sawmill District Tech Campus Phase 1. And this is a picture of the parking structure that is under construction currently. An exciting, massive project. That's what's going on now. Where the mill site has been, the most recent building built is in this part of the mill site, the Cambium building. Since 2012, Poly's A through D buildings have been under construction and are now complete, and they lie in this block south of Wyoming. The Sawyer Student Living lies in this part of the mill site, and these other slides will demonstrate what's going on now. The construction pictures I was just showing you are happening here in Block 9. That building started in November of 2020 and will be completed in mid 2021. And along with the Tech Campus building comes the infrastructure on either side. And the next slide shows these areas in red are the roadways that will be built in conjunction with the Tech Campus building, in addition to some water mains that will be extended again out of the CAGS and up Moose Creek Trail here. This is nearly $350,000 worth of infrastructure improvements that are under contract as part of the Tech Campus building. And then what we are looking at is Block 6. We'll install alleys and Old Mill Road. There'll be another water main extension to the north that I discussed earlier through the common area green space for approximately $240,000 in infrastructure improvements, with the total of $580,000 of infrastructure to be built in 2021 and early 2022 with the Block 6 townhomes and the Tech Campus building and the improvements to the common area green space in between. And we are just asking that this common area green space improvement could be deferred so that we can use it as a staging area to build the townhomes. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salisbury. Questions from council members? Ms. Hart?
Thanks, Mayor. The question's for Ryan. Ryan, thanks for sharing a little bit of the history and showing a larger view, if you will, of a map. That was my number one question, is how does this Block 6 actually fit within the whole existing plan? And I think to your point about how the market has changed since the beginning of this particular project, which started, I think, something like 20 years ago, the square footage caught me by surprise of these particular townhomes. Do you happen to know of the existing condos today, what the range is in square footage of those particular condos?
I don't off the top of my head. Don may be able to help with that question on the square footage. I know they thought a lot about it. They did some initial pricing. The pricing we had was 6 months ago. And given our current building materials, inflation, and the craziness that's going on, frankly, in home construction, it's hard to pinpoint the cost. And I don't have a good answer for you on that, Heather. They're not in the attainable, affordable housing. They're above that. They're a luxury home.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate you saying that. And I guess, was there ever any interest in actually trying to build smaller footprint homes that might be slightly more attainable than these luxury units in this particular development?
Honestly, I don't know that was the vision of the developer. I think there's future buildings in the mill site that could accomplish that goal. But the Main Street corridor along Wyoming and having, I know that the proposed units were thought about in regards to they're next to a large 4-story building. And how do they look? We wanted the Tech Campus building to not overshadow the single family homes and have it sort of step down as you headed to the west, so that it architecturally made more sense. And Dawn, if you're able to speak and have anything more to add there.
Well, I think the question that I heard from Heather originally was how big are these units? And we have looked at these units ranging from 1,350 to right around 2,000 square feet. So they're not massive units. And even at the lower end, it's hard to make them come in as a affordable unit. So it's an interesting dilemma that we face as a community with current construction costs and costs of land. How do we develop those kinds of units?
Mhm. Thanks. I appreciate your comments, gentlemen. I'll see you on LUP.
Right, seeing no further questions from council members, we will move on to our final public hearing of the evening on funding recommendations for the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Program for 2021. And Ms. Lysom has our staff report this evening, I think.
I do. So let me get my screen here for you. All right, 1 second. It's trying to start. Okay, there we go. So I'm here to present the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Partnerships Program funding recommendations for the program year 2021. Each year, the City of Missoula receives federal funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is also known as HUD. And Missoula has been an entitlement city for CDBG since 1999 and a participating jurisdiction for home since 2003. As required by HUD, we are presenting the program year 2021 annual action plan, which is also available on our website, which details how Missoula will disperse these funds to benefit Missoula's low and moderate income residents and leverage resources to improve the supply of affordable housing, public improvements, and public services. The home program is designed to provide housing that is affordable to low-income community members with an annual income that does not exceed 80% of area median income, which in Missoula is under 71,000, just under 71,000. This meeting and the previous one is a combination of a 5-month process to solicit community feedback, help potential applicants, and finally score and choose the applicants. Or choose applications for funding based on community housing goals, the consolidated plan goals, and housing policy goals. The progress we make towards these goals are reported to HUD annually through our consolidated annual performance evaluation report. So that first step in our process is the community needs assessment, which was an online survey in January from January 5th through February 5th. We had 739 responses, and every neighborhood of those responses was represented. Survey respondents were asked a series of questions about the housing challenges facing Missoula today, and a majority agreed that Missoula faces 2 major housing challenges: a lack of affordable homes to buy and a lack of affordable homes to rent. Survey takers identified from a list of housing initiatives which they would prioritize for the city as a whole. And this list was based on the type of initiatives that we can fund with our CDBG and home funds. And then the creation and preservation of affordable housing and housing assistance are routinely some of the most supported efforts which can be carried out with these federal funds. Missoula's real estate market has long been out of reach for many with low incomes and those with barriers to accessing and keeping a home. And here is you can see the median home prices compared to the median incomes for the past several years. While Reaching Home and the coordinated entry system have made great inroads, we still have high rates of those who are unhoused, underhoused, and experiencing homelessness. On any given day, 350 people are experiencing homelessness in Missoula. And the majority of those people cite the inability to afford rent as the reason for becoming homeless, followed by domestic violence. This year, For the competitive application cycle, we received 6 applications for funding, 4 for CDBG funds and 2 for home funds, including a Chodo operating expense request. The request for CDBG far exceeded our available funds, which we were awarded. Other factors that come into play are the amount available for funding, including program income, administrative costs, and mandated set aside. But ultimately, you can see the requests, at least for CDBG, far exceeded the award. Which this made for a very competitive and difficult scoring year. Our scoring committee consisted of community development staff and 2 members from the city council. And applications received points based on measurable outcomes that they reported in their applications. And then Karen Gasfoto will take over from here.
Thanks, Karen. So for the upcoming program year, the scoring committee is recommending full funding of $270,000 for Habitat's Homebuyer Assistance Program. They will provide homes people can afford to buy in East Missoula and will create a scattered site community trust for the sites, reducing the cost of homes by taking the land ownership out and ensuring resale requirements over the length of the affordability period. Also recommended is full funding for Homeward's Chodo operating expenses at $15,000. Up to 5% of home funds can be used to support a community housing development organization's general operating and capacity building costs. And in program year 2020, the Trinity project received CDBG funding due to rising construction costs. The selection committee approved use of the remaining program year 21 home funds to go toward further supplementing construction of the Cooley site homes that will be for families and Missoula's workforce. Then to note, HUD did have an error in their formula calculations for the CDBG program, and this resulted in a small increase in our funding for program year 2021. Also, one of the public service project requests listed in the action plan has been withdrawn, and we are finalizing CDBG award amounts based on the new calculations. These changes will be minimal, and once we have the final numbers, we will be posting a legal ad and an updated action plan for a minimum 3-day public comment period before final submittal to HUD, and this is according to their requirements. As mentioned previously, this year's CDBG applications were competitive, totaling more than $1 million in requested funding. The scoring committee recommends funding Homeward's Trinity Navigation Center for the full $500,000 request. The center will be located at the Trinity Mullins site to provide access to supportive services. The Mullins site will also have low threshold homes, 30 of which will be supportive housing for Missoula's long-term unhoused neighbors, and 100 homes for individuals and families living below 70% of the area median income. Up to 15% of CDBG funds can be allocated for public service projects. The projects recommended here have been funded in the past and were not awarded competitively. The public services category is being strategically phased out in anticipation of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as an additional funding source next year. The 3 remaining projects are being recommended for program year 2021, Poverello's Rapid Intake Services, YWCA's Meadowlark, and Homeward's Financial Education and Counseling. Lastly, we have included the admin and planning, which is considered best practice by HUD, to allocate up to 10% of home and 20% of CDBG funds to be used to support the administration, planning, and management of the programs. So these funds, projects in total have lasting positive outcomes for our community with supportive services, financial management, renter and homeownership education, preservation of affordable new homeownership, and rental units and homes that are affordable for Missoulians. We thank you for your consideration and are here to answer any questions you may have.
And thank you both. I will open the public hearing on these recommendations for funding. Mr. Larson.
Yes, City Council and Mayor, this is Matt Larson, Ward 3. Nice to see you. I missed the earlier comments on the public hearing for the financial aspect of the public hearings. I was just hoping if one of you may pretty please pass along the message to Lee Griffin to, again, please deliver the entire capital asset list for the entire city with all the information, all the columns. As you guys know or may remember, I've been asking for this for months now, and I finally actually got a response from Lee Griffin, and she still seems to be confused as to what.
Mr. Larson, that's not germane to this public hearing. I know that you're in communication with Ms. Griffin, and she will provide you that information. Anyone care to comment on the question before the body, which is the allocation of these funds? All right, seeing none, we will hold this public hearing open as well. Questions or comments from council members? Ms. Anderson.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question. Several times throughout this report, area median income was referenced, and I know that we've been hearing a lot about that in the community in regards to affordable housing. And I would appreciate if you could give a very brief explanation of how that number is formulated, that just as an educational piece, because I do know it was referenced in this particular presentation.
Anyone want to take a run at that?
Well, I know Kendra pulled up the number that we had. I think it's taking into account the population, what the income is overall, and then determining that median income. The number that we did give you was based on the family for HUD is 1 to 4 people. So that 70,900 was AMI from HUD for 2021 based on that family of 1 to 4 people.
Thanks much.
Other questions, Ms. Hart?
I would just add to Karen's comment for Stacy's benefit that area median income is a figure that just kind of changes depending upon the size of the family. So with one person in the family, 100% of the area median income is right around 55,000. And as you add members to your household, that number increases to what Karen was saying at 79,000 is roughly the average for four family members. And then it continues to grow upwards from that. We take 40 to 80% of area median income for our households. So a fraction of what that figure is.
Right. Seeing no additional questions, this public hearing will remain open until the 7th of June. We have no additional public hearings this evening. We do have a number of items for final consideration. These items were subject to a public hearing, and council has had time to absorb that public hearing, and the appropriate council committee chair will make a motion this evening, and we'll have a final vote on each of these items. Our first item is municipal court ordinance, and Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I would like to make the recommended motion that we, hang on, let me get my glasses on. All right, I would like to make the recommended motion that we adopt an ordinance amending Title 2, Chapter 2.42, Section 2.42.010, entitled Municipal Court, to establish 3 municipal court judges, as well as establish the duties of the chief judge. And if this is appropriate time, I would like to speak to that.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you. we have been discussing for the past few weeks putting, well, first of all, under the direction of the legislature, we are not to have appointed judges, but we are to have elected judges. And frankly, our formula at this point is that we need 3 judges based on the capacity of the court. I did want to note that there have been a lot of public comments submitted by public defenders and others regarding this change. I appreciate the public comment. I read all of it. I think at this point in time, given that we've had, I think it's close to 2.65% capacity of judges between 1 elected and 2 part-time appointeds, at this point, we're going to 3 judges, which I think, given that with the elections this year and with Judge Jenks retiring, we're going to have 3 new judges. As an attorney, I would much prefer that those 3 judges who will be elected have some breathing room to get up to speed with, frankly, what is a huge job. And you need to develop a large working base of knowledge in order to be effective as a judge. It takes a huge amount of preparation time off the bench in order to be effective on the bench. So I am very comfortable going to 3 judges at this point in time because I want the judges to be able to spend time reading the files prior to ruling on motions, prior to hearing cases, and have that breathing room to also be able to confer with one another to set this up to be an efficient, effective court that helps people and gets things moving forward. So we're having a change. We're going to have 3 elected judges, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm in support of this.
Further discussion on the motion, Ms. Merrick?
I'm also in support of this motion and happy to lend my yes vote to it. There has been some discussion and some of it revolved around a public comment that was made by Judge Kathleen Jenks. There, I think it is in our purview as elected city council members whose job it is to create laws around the city of Missoula within the decision-making space that we have. And this ordinance and asking questions regarding the appropriateness of the number of judges that we are choosing to elect this time around is completely appropriate for us as city councilors to be doing. The message from Judge Jenks seemed to be chastising me for asking questions. And it's no more appropriate for her to chastise me in that regard than it is for me to, as she put it, try and bend the judiciary to our will. I had no intention whatsoever of doing anything of the sort. I do think it's important that our elected municipal judges consider the jail diversion master plan when they are making their decisions and approaching how they do business. It's a policy that's adopted by the city and the county, and it's important that they consider that. So I am looking forward to having these 3 new judges elected, and I hope that they will bring with them some of the innovative concepts that have been discussed in some of the public comment that we received. I think that we can do better when we know better, and we have that opportunity now. Thank you.
Mr. Van Lossberg?
Thanks. I'll be supporting this as well. I understand and agree with the capacity constraints, and I'm supportive of seeing these positions be elective and being expanded to the 3. I do want to thank the public defenders that reached out with some of their commentary. There were some misunderstandings about appointments versus the elections and such, but there were a number of, I think, really good points made by those folks about process and through the judicial system, and wanted those folks to know that I read through those comments with a lot of interest and attention, and am looking forward to seeing there be some change, but I am supportive of the 3 positions.
And Michelle.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to lend my support to this as well. Philosophically, for me, once we are beyond one part-time appointed judge, it is time to elect a judge. So even though I realize that the legislature is telling us we have to do this right now, I philosophically agree with it. And I think that, if we're at 2.6 right now, 3 makes sense. We do not want judges in a situation which they are pressured to make decisions more quickly or not doing the research that they need to do. And so I'm fully in support of this.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion nor any hands up among attendees, we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hang on. Something happened with the voting. Let's try it another way. There we go. This is absent. Jones?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Vasika?
Yes.
Von Lossberg?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And Becerra?
Yes.
Would either of you like to change your vote? It's 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And the ordinance is approved. Our second item for final consideration is an ordinance amending the Affordable Housing Citizen Oversight Committee guidance. And Mr. Von Lossberg.
Thank you. I recommend we adopt an ordinance of the Missoula City Council amending Missoula Municipal Code Section 3.24.080, renaming the section from Affordable Housing Citizen Oversight Committee to Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee, allowing alternate members to vote under certain circumstances and removing term start and end dates for committee members to allow the newly appointed committee to commence service before January 1st, 2022. May I speak to that?
You may.
Thanks. I just wanted to thank Emily Harris Shears for her work on this. We reviewed the proposed changes extensively with her input. I'm glad that she took the initiative as we were going through the appointments process to recognize where we could make some tweaks and improve things. And I think everything that's been recommended makes perfect sense, and glad to get this done now rather than wait. So I'm fully supportive.
Is there a discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we've had a public hearing and we have no attendees with hands up, and we'll have a roll call vote.
On the ordinance, Harp?
Yes.
Hess? I'm sorry, he's absent. Jones?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Cheryl? Cheryl?
Yes.
Vasika?
Yes.
Von Lossberg?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Becerra?
Yes.
And Contos?
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? It's 11 ayes, 1 absent.
And the amendments to the ordinance are approved. Next item is an annexation and zoning request for a portion of Fox Den Court. And Ms. West filling in for Mr. Hess this evening.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order. Are we skipping to later the sound?
Oh, my apologies, Mr. Van Osberg. Yes, no, we're not.
Okay.
I over scrolled. My apologies. This is a final consideration of an ordinance amending our sound amplification rules in community parks, and that is happening in Ms. Is that happening in Ms. Cheryl's committee? Yes.
It is. Thanks. I thought you were skipping me. I recommend that we adopt an ordinance amending Title 12. Hold on, let me move you here. Title 12, the Missoula Municipal Code, amending Section 12.40.065 MMC to create subsection 12.40.065 A29 MMC, further defining the amplified sound and the terms under which it may be used, and amending subsection 12.40.065 MMC to allow for additional less restrictive penalties for violation of section 12.40.065 MMC.
And who said local government isn't exciting? Ms. Cheryl, you may speak to the motion.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I appreciate, this has been, anyone that's following it this ordinance will recognize this has been in committee, it's been in city council. We have been working on this for the last few weeks. I appreciate the Montana Area Musicians Association, MAMA. Their executive director, along with their board members, have helped really work on this ordinance and make it something I think that really works for the community and improves the ordinance. And Shirley Kinsey with the Parks Department has been great, as well as my colleague Julie Merritt, which I think improved this. So I am hoping everyone will support this. We have spent our time making sure that it is a good ordinance and making sure it was done collaboratively.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Further discussion on the motion. Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to thank Shirley and the folks at MAMA and others who took the time to really hash through this. At first, I had a hard time thinking about how we were going to accommodate folks who wanted to be able to just have small impromptu gatherings and use amplified sound, and you know how we were going to put some sideboards around that to also protect our neighbors who live right next to our neighborhood parks. And I think the work that was done is fabulous. It did a great job of putting those sideboards around it and still allowing the types of activities that are completely reasonable to be happening in our city parks. And so I really want to thank everyone for all that hard work. I think that we came out with something that is clear and easy for people to understand. And I also want to speak briefly to some of the comments that this simply isn't needed because we already have a noise ordinance. And it's, you know, our police officers don't carry decibel meters around with them everywhere, nor is that something that I think we should be spending money on. The way that we have created this ordinance and the exhibit that goes along with it, it sets up a situation that can be easily assessed if there is a complaint, and that complaint can be responded to without a lot of hassle, I think. So I think that this is needed, and I'm happy to support it. Thanks, everybody, for your hard work.
Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. I appreciate all the discussion that happened with this, and I really do appreciate the amendments that happened with this ordinance. However, I don't really agree with my my ward mate, Ms. Merritt. I don't think that this is entirely necessary. So unfortunately, I will not be supporting this this motion tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Hart.
Thanks. I will be supporting the motion tonight. I think there's been a lot of good thought that's gone into this particular ordinance. And I know, like Julie mentioned, we started with something very messy and worrying about some musicians being able to just practice in parks. And we've gone down the rabbit hole a little bit, but I think we've gotten back to a point that I think we can all rest easy that what we have before us will work for our community.
Mr. Van Lossberg.
Thanks. I want to thank Ms. Merritt and Ms. Cheryl, and I believe Mr. Hess for working with park staff to when we sent this back to committee based on the public comment and hashing through it like was described. And I just want to say, you know, these complaints are real things. I have spent the better part of the last few months dealing with a situation in Ward 1 with a few constituents severely impacted, frankly, by some incredibly inconsiderate people. And we heard a lot about, you know, the sort of situation or the claim that, you know, this is unnecessary because people will just, you know, stop doing this if it's intruding on other people's lives. And I can tell you, I'm not going to identify people at their request and areas, but that is not the case. It is the case in the vast majority of situations, but it's not the case in all situations. And it broke my heart, the case I was trying to help get resolved. And this is an entirely reasonable thing to put in place. And again, I appreciate all the work in fine tuning it. Thanks.
Seeing no further discussion and seeing no hands raised among attendees, we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the ordinance, I think we started this round with Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
No.
Van Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote?
Marty, I would certainly like to change mine. I was discombobulated because my name came up so quick. I'm a no on this one. I apologize.
Okay, we'll change Ramos to a no, and that means we have 8 ayes, 9 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 absent.
I felt something strange in the force when Team Liberty kind of busted up there for a minute. I wasn't sure what was afoot. Mr. Ramos, I'm glad you corrected that. That ordinance is approved. Now we're back to the Fox Den Court annexation and zoning. Ms. West.
All right, thank you. So the recommended motion is to adopt a resolution to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the city of Missoula, Montana, one certain parcel of land located at 3946 Fox Den Court and legally described as Portion A of Lot A1 Fairview Edition, Lot A1, Lot A2, and Lot 3 Fairview Edition, located in Section 1, Township 12 North, Range 20 West, PMM, and zone the property Fairview Edition Planned Unit Development based on the findings of fact in the staff report.
And that motion is in order. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, and I see no hands up in the attendees box, we'll have a roll call vote.
Okay, we start this round with Merritt.
Surprised me. Yes.
Usually don't get this far down in the roll.
Right.
Ramos.
I am a yes on this one, for sure.
Cheryl.
I'm a yes as well.
Vasika.
Yes.
Van Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Maybe. Just kidding.
I don't have a maybe option.
We'll go with the yes.
Okay. Ann Jones.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 11 ayes.
And our final item for final consideration this evening is an annexation and rezoning of Invermere Subdivision Phase 3A. Ms. West, if you would.
All right, thank you. The recommended motion is to adopt a resolution to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the city of Missoula, Montana, a certain parcel of land described as Invermere Phase 3A, including rights-of-way for Drake Lane, Invermere Parkway, and Parkland, all allocated in the east half of Section 12 and Township 12 North, Range 20 West, PMM, and to zone the property R20 residential.
And that motion is in order. Is there discussion on the motion? Ms. Anderson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I do have one quick question for Mr. de Grand Prix. I do believe he's on tonight. There he is. In regards to, I communicated a lot with him about this, and I realized in getting my notes ready for this evening that I missed one question that I was hoping to ask. And what was the public notification for the annexation for the adjacent lots around the proposed area that was to be annexed?
Good evening, Dave de Grand Prix, City of Missoula Development Services. The public notification for annexation is public notice in the newspaper published at least 15 days prior to the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. de Grand Prix. Further discussion? Ms. Anderson.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. This is something we talked a lot about in land use and planning, and I will be supporting the annexation and potential rezone this evening. This has been a project that has been multiple years in the making, multiple phases of this annexation, and so much of the subdivision law resides at state statute level versus municipal statute level. And so I know that there has been frustrations on both sides, both with the current homeowners in the subdivision, as well as those folks who hope to be able to build for that. So I want to say thanks to the staff for going back and forth and trying to get this through, answering all my questions, answering the questions of my various constituents. You've been very prompt and useful, lots of knowledge, and thank you for your extra work on all of this. There has been some discussion around the park, and I feel as though with the comments made by Mr. Larson in the land use and planning, representing the developer, that we've come to a good resolution on that. And they should be, as he said on Wednesday, starting no later than June 1st. And I know there'll be many excited neighbors watching on June 1st to make sure that the park development has started and the various other infrastructure improvements are followed out in a timely manner so that this project can be completed both for the current homeowners and those wishing to move and build there. So I'll be in support, and I just want to say a thank you to staff for their extra work and any extra work I have caused with asking all my questions. Thank you so much.
Seeing no further discussion nor any hands up in the attendees box, we will have a roll call vote.
I'd just like to note for the record that we did get a public comment through the agenda system, but it was up under public hearings, and it's from Mr. Loomis. So just wanted to note that for the record for folks. And let's see, I think we start this round with Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
Vasika?
Yes.
Von Lossberg?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Becerra?
Yes.
Contos?
Yes.
Harp?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 11 ayes, 1 absent.
And the annexation and rezoning are approved. We don't have any further items for final consideration this evening. I'll pass on communications from the mayor And Ms. Anderson will start general comments from council members.
I will pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Harp.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Two things. One, I would like to thank you, Mayor, for starting negotiations for the mental health, Western Montana Mental Health Center. The purchase of those two properties is roughly $2.7 million for 24 units. And a simple math equation makes that roughly $113,000 per home. I've taken great pride at being able to say that Habitat for Humanity happens to be a time machine that we can go back in time and build homes that are roughly $150,000 to $175,000 for our families. What you have before you, Mayor, is a really incredible deal for a portion of our community that can keep those homes permanently affordable. Do everything in your power if you can to secure that funding and make that happen for those folks. And secondly, I want to really give a shout out to our library and the foundation that made that all possible. I know it was a huge, huge endeavor to go that extra mile and a half or whatever it took to actually take that to completion. I got a chance to tour it, and I cannot express the joy to be able to go up to the 4th floor and see a vista that belongs to me and everyone else in this community. When we invest in public facilities like that, it really makes me proud to call myself a Missoulian. So thank you to all who've participated, who've given of time and treasure to make that happen.
Ms. Vasika.
Thank you. I wanted to wish everyone, we're not going to be meeting next Monday because of Memorial Day. So I wanted to wish everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend and to use that time to think about and honor and really just remember that we as Americans, we may not always agree, but we still owe our lives to the people who gave their lives to fight for our freedom in this country. I am truly proud to live in this country, and I truly thank all those who died in service for our country. So please take a moment and say a prayer or say a thanks to those who have lost their lives in service for us. Thank you.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Anne and Eric Green and John Pierce. They ran they did an open house for the Native Prairie, which is an open space in Missoula down by the river. They did an open house this last weekend. It was cold and chilly and windy, but not rainy on Saturday. And quite a few people came through and they gave them tours and all sorts of information. So thank you to those volunteers. They keep that little gem healthy and weeded and preserved. So I greatly appreciate their time. Thanks.
Ms. West.
Thanks. I also just wanted to give a big shout out to the library. We just went for the first time this afternoon, and it's amazing. You have to, there's limited capacity at the moment, so you do have to check in when you go in and get an armband, and you're allowed to visit for an hour. But we got a just amazing rundown of the new makerspace and checked out books, and we'll be going back soon. So it's pretty awesome. If you haven't gone yet, I think they're open from 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday. Monday through Saturday these days.
Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. I want to take an opportunity to make people aware of a public comment period that's going on as we've been talking about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The committee that we put in place for that is the Resident Oversight Committee. And since we're starting from ground zero with this committee, it's a whole new thing to Missoula. We've got a lot of rules and regulations to put in place. So city staff have drafted administrative policies under which the committee is going to operate. So this is kind of some of the framework that will be used as this committee moves into the future. And so it's important that we get feedback from the public about these policies. And if you are interested and would like to take a look at those policies and leave a comment, we would really appreciate it. We have a tile set up on the Engage Missoula page. And it's the one that is entitled Affordable Housing Trust Fund Administrative Policies. You can go there and participate in multiple ways, ranging from reading the full policy document and giving feedback, or asking questions if you've got some questions. There's a couple of short videos that our staff member, Emily Harris-Shears, has made to help folks understand what's going on. And we would like if you could take a brief follow-up survey. We hope there's something there for everyone. And on top of all that, just to entice you, participants can enter to win a $25 gift card to the Missoula Fresh Market. So please take a minute if you're interested in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, and provide us with your thoughts. Thanks.
Mr. Von Lossberg.
Thank you. I wanted to acknowledge a colleague of ours across the state, Silver Little Eagle, who is a Northern Cheyenne council member, was assaulted in downtown Billings earlier this month. There's an investigation going on like that with regard to that assault, but wanted to express our sympathies and condolences and best wishes for recovery. It's beyond tragic to hear of an attack like that, particularly on a colleague of ours, as I said, across the state, and just wanted to acknowledge that.
Ms. Becerra.
I will pass. Thank you.
Ms. Sherrill.
Thanks. Since we don't have council meeting next week, I want to say congratulations to all of our high school graduates that will be graduating on the 4th and the 5th. It's been a very hard year, a hard year for them to stay engaged, and they made it, and they all deserve to be celebrated after what they've gone through in the last year.
Mr. Katos.
I'll pass. Thank you.
And Mr. Ramos, your bat and cleanup.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo Ms. Vasica's thoughts around Memorial Day and thank all those first responders and veterans who have served and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all. We have no committee reports this evening, nor do we have any items of new business. Any additional items to be referred this evening? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements? Seeing none of those, as always, I thank you for your service, and we will be adjourned.